Top of the morning from the sports desk. Let's take a final look at our sporting headlines for this morning, diving into some crunch action as far as the UFC is concerned. Where days after Dricus du Plessis broke the silence to deny injury rumors, UFC President Dana White confirmed that the champions fight between Dricus du Plessis, or rather, where Dricus du Plessis will defend his middleweight title against undefeated contender Khamzat Chimaev. Of course, the announcement came after the UFC came after the UFC Kansas, and of course, sparkled major excitement amongst MMA fans. Of course, the fight between Dricus du Plessis and Chimaev has not been confirmed with regard to a date as yet, but we're looking closer to the next month and a half, the next 2 months. Well, of course, our very own South African middleweight UFC boxer or MMA fighter Dricus du Plessis will be back in action to defend his title. And on to some other news that are making headlines across the world. Of course, we look at what's going on in the world of tennis, where, of course, our American Coco became the second player to achieve an unusual feat as she progressed to the quarterfinals of the 2025 Madrid Open. The world number 4 secured a convincing 6-4, 6-2 victory against 42-ranked Belinda Bencic in the last 16 of the WTA 1000 tournament. Coco broke Bencic twice in each set, and of course lost the serve only once as she avenged her defeat to the 28-year-old Swiss in Indian Wells last month. Of course, she now leads the head-to-head series with Bencic with a 3-2 victory. Shortly after that, of course, Coco Gauff sealed the win. The Madrid Open was heavily affected by widespread power outages that took place in Spain and Portugal. I know a lot of people in the European region are complaining about the outages, saying that there's a cyber attack coming that we are not quite familiar with. Hopefully, it's not a cyber attack, and it was just a regular power outage. Of course, the 21-year-old Coco Gauff's victory has now seen her reach the last 8 of the Madrid Open for the first time in 5 appearances in the tournament. And then as far as our Formula 1 is concerned, of course, after a respite of a free weekend following the first triple header, the F1 2025 season is back with the Miami Grand Prix that takes place this weekend. The F1 sprint format brings back yet another shake-up to the traditional running order of the race weekend. So events, of course, will take place from Friday, the 2nd of May, and of course, will run throughout the course of the weekend. And main event, as per usual, on a Sunday will take place with regards to the main race at the Miami Open. Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris in the McLaren vehicles are definitely sitting high and pretty at the top of the standings, respectively being on the drivers as well as the constructors standing. McLaren are definitely coming out triumphant this weekend. Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes definitely on the away side, part of the chasing pack as well. We'll see how things turn out this weekend at Formula 1 Grand Prix weekend that takes place in Miami. And then on some football news, of course, Saturday's much anticipated Soweto derby between Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates at the legendary FNB Stadium is facing a significant hurdle after, of course, it emerged that the pitch would not be at optimal shape, potentially hampering preparation for the iconic clash. Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates, of course, are lock horns this weekend at the FNB Stadium for the second time, for the second Soweto derby of the season. Over the weekend, of course, Bertie Krobler, managing director of the stadium management South Africa, raised an unsettling issue, which of course threatens the very fabric of the game. A substandard playing surface for Saturday's Soweto derby, he said, and of course the conditions of the pitch will definitely affect the conditions or the quality of the playing style on Saturday. The two teams, of course, met early on this year in March, with the Buccaneers winning 1-0 thanks to a late Patrick Masangwani penalty. Of course, Saturday's match will be one of 2 derbies to take place this month. The first derby is a Betway Premiership match and of course the second derby is a Nedbank Cup final. Kaizer Chiefs have lost 4 straight derbies against Orlando Pirates and are desperate to change that, whereas the Buccaneers are currently favourites to win the final. But of course, this weekend's encounter, as the bookies might have it might end up in a draw, as both teams have the eyes focused on the Nedbank Cup on the Nedbank Cup title. And then, of course, onto some news as far as European football is concerned. Liverpool came out victorious this weekend as far as their game against Tottenham Hotspur took place this weekend with a 5-1 victory. That game did not only come up with that victory, it also came with the EPL title, the 20th EPL title for Liverpool, of course, in the leadership of Arne Slot. Arne Slot, in his first season as Liverpool coach, came out victorious. And of course, you're sharing some insights and sentiments with regards to how important the victory is for him, but not only for him, but more importantly importantly for the city of Liverpool and Merseyside altogether. Let's hear what Arnold Slot had to say after the victory this past weekend.
Because you've worked so hard for this moment to happen, and when it then does happen, it needs some time for you to truly feel it. But the fans were so happy that it didn't take me long to understand what we've achieved together this season.
Yeah, a very good feat there for Liverpool coming out victorious. So once again, just to mention that that's the 20th title this year. Of course, the last title that they had won it was during the COVID-19, and there were, of course, no fans in the stadiums. But nonetheless, on to some Champions League news with regards to that Liverpool news. Now that the Premier League title is done and dusted and Arsenal are poised to finish second for the third season on the trot, it is now a time for them to concentrate on winning the UEFA Champions League for the first time in the club history. To do that, of course, the Gunners of course, were beaten by Barcelona in 2006 in the 2006 final. We'll have to sweep aside a young, energetic, and a determined Paris Saint-Germain side who are also looking to finally lift up the club's lift up our club football's holy grail that is the UEFA Champions League. Having lost in 2020 in the 2020 showpiece to Bayern Munich in front of an empty stadium due to COVID in Lisbon, both sides, of course, had reached this year's semi-finals with impressive victories. Of course, taking over classy opponents. Mikel Arteta's side defeated defending champions Real Madrid 5-1 on aggregate. While, of course, Paris Saint-Germain repelled Aston Villa's ferocious attempt at second leg fight back to go through with a 5-4 victory in that encounter. It's now set to be a humdinger of an evening tonight at the Emirates Park in Arsenal, as of course both teams will be looking to just get one hand in the finals, as the first leg semi-finals takes place this evening in the UEFA Champions League. A mouth-watering encounter altogether. Kickoff scheduled for 9 p.m. South African time. That's pretty much my insight for this morning. As per usual, back between 9 and 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. Until then, that's enough said.